Hey, it's Tony Fonte. How you doing? I make the spiritual awakening journey fun. Today's message, I want to talk about and ask the question, and I want you to really ponder and reflect on this question. It is, do you fear disagreements and arguments with the people you love? I'm going to dive into that question. I'm going to dive into why it might be happening, and I'm going to share a story of my own awareness of this and how and why I was fearing it and how you may be too. So don't go nowhere. We'll be right back. Woo! Hey, welcome back, and let's dive into the message today is, do you fear disagreements and arguments with the people you love? Now, a great way to really understand and go, oh, wow, I do. And you may be going, yeah, that's why I'm watching it, because I know that I do, and I just don't know why that I fear it. Is, do you get anxious when you're disagreeing with someone, when you've had a fight or argument with someone? And I mean fight, it can be a healthy fight too. When you had this disagreement with someone, you had a fight with someone, do you feel afraid? Do you tense up? Do you lock down and do you want to run? And do you just want to be quiet? And do you just want to accept what is with them and say, okay, you're right, and not get involved with that? And a host of many other things that could be going on. All these little signals that are firing that indicate that you have some kind of apprehension, that you have some kind of fear towards having disagreements. And that has been true for me. And I want to share this story of how I became aware of why I was doing that. So I'm going to step back. So not too long ago, I had two very deep conversations, because that's one thing that I've been lacking on, is being afraid to have these deep conversations with people, especially intimate people and intimate partners. I've had this fear of having this deeper conversation, sharing my truth, sharing what I feel, sharing my insecurities, all of that. But more specifically, that led me to this, because I noticed leading up to the conversation. So not only was it hard because I was wanting to have these deeper communication, because I know that to have healthy relationships, you have to have effective communication and continue to work. And the more wounds that you're dealing with, and the more conditioning that you have, and the volatility in your childhood, the harder that's going to be, the more challenging it's going to be when you first begin having those deeper conversations. But I noticed for me that there was two conversations back to back that I had, and I was like, I remember having this feeling and this thought, and it was like just in my awareness a little bit, but not quite there. Like I didn't fully grasp and it didn't fully click until after I had these conversations, when I finally opened up and had this conversation with these people. And then all of a sudden it opened up more awareness to this. And I had this fear of, oh shoot, I'm going to lose them. The relationship's going to end. The friendship's going to end. Oh. And then I remember reflecting back. I just said, oh. I'm just going to laugh at that. And I remember reflecting back, and it went all the way back to childhood. Not only because I had to walk on eggshells and keep the peace, mainly with my dad, but when there was a disagreement, oh my God, it wasn't pretty. It was not healthy. So I always wanted to avoid or try to change and adapt to keep the peace and worry about what they're feeling and how they're going to react, and which that's not our responsibility to worry about how they're going to react. We can just share how we feel. But I had this fear that the relationship was going to end, because that is what I believed, and that's exactly what I've experienced in my life. Maybe the relationship didn't end, but it ended the way that I once knew it, especially with my parents. Love was taken away. There was some tension there. The relationship wasn't really there, especially with my dad. And it had nothing to do with me, right? It was his stuff. And here we are breaking all these generational cycles. So to me, when there was a disagreement, now I've been unhealthy too and had those marriages ended and relationships ended because I was that unhealthy, disagreeing and arguing and fighting and screaming and cussing and all this other craziness. But it didn't matter if I was even having a healthy conversation. I would have this fear build up inside me, this anxiety leading into it. Well, the relationship's going to end. I'm not going to have this person in my life anymore. And I went, oh my God. And this was after the conversation that finally clicked in my head that I had this fear that it was going to end. So I avoided conversations, I avoided disagreements because of that fear, because of that fear and belief that there would be loss of love, there would be loss of acceptance, there would be loss of validation, loss of approval, and ultimately loss of self, because I would go, oh, I got to change to keep this, which is totally, we don't want to do that. You don't want to do that at all, because if you're not being yourself, they don't really care about you anyway. They only care about a version that's not accurate. But so I had all these conditions and all these false beliefs about who I am and how relationships were and how disagreements were and how they were handled. So that it created all this anxiety and this fear within me. And as I became aware of that, I got to work through where it came from and do the shadow work, the inner work on where it came from. And I didn't have to do too much because I've done enough work that I can go, okay, this is where it's coming from. This is where it's been. All right, guides, angels, help me release this. And I was able to release that. So I'm going to ask you this question. As you're listening to my story on this, where do you fear disagreements? Where are the patterns that you see throughout your life that show this fear? What is it deeper for you? Where back in childhood can you connect this dot with? Connect this fear with? And what specific pieces of loss relate to that message as well, relate to that fear as well. And then we can begin letting those go and creating something new and opening up to understand that when we have disagreements with somebody, when we have disagreements with a partner, with a friend, family member, the relationship's not ending. It allows us to grow and evolve in the relationship. So maybe that version of the relationship ends because you're growing and evolving into something better and something greater, something more connected, something more loving. Does that make sense? So answer those questions and I would love to hear from you. I'd love to hear what resonated with you in this message. What were the things that came up for you in this message? I would love to hear how this has helped you and served you in some way. And as always, make sure that you subscribe, make sure that you like, if it resonated, of course, and then share this with people that you care about that can benefit, the ones that go pop right in your head as you're listening to this message. And of course, if you would love help and support on working through these conditions, these false beliefs of who you think you are, and these false beliefs on this fear on disagreements, then reach out to me, book a session with an intuitive reading session, an intuitive energy healing and reading session, or you can also grab one of my healing meditations, my intuitive healing meditations. The links will be down below, and you can go ahead and click and do all that easy peasy stuff right there. All right, so make sure you do that. If it resonates with you, share. If it resonates to grab a session with me, great. I'd love to work with you. I'd love to help you clear that out so you can begin rediscovering who you are and manifesting the freedom and the life that lights you up. All right, so talk to you soon and see you on the next episode of the Laughing Through Life Show. Peace.